Questions one may have for a meltologist. Say, Panson, you're a meltologist. Can you answer me this? What are Ice Age erratics? And then I might say, what? And then you might say, Panson, what are Ice Age erratics? And then I might say, what? Ice Age what? And then you might say, Panson, are you deaf? What are Ice Age erratics? Oh, Ice Age erratics. That's a great question. I can answer that question. Now, in my most honest meltological opinion, I've come to conclude, for what it's worth, that Ice Age erratics are no more than steaming hot, nothing but a steaming hot pile of bullshit. Steaming hot with steam, baby. Take it away. Sing your song, Nick. Notice immediately he's holding the hammer wrong. This is not how you hold a hammer down here. You're holding it on the wrong end here. This goes to prove that these folks know nothing about what they're doing around the melt. They know nothing about what they're doing around the masonry. They do not use these tools. He's never held a hammer before. That's the point. And that's why they put a hammer in his hand, and he's holding it incorrectly. Anyone in the trade knows. You hold a hammer like this, baby. Kairos knows what I'm talking about. I am Kairos knows what I'm talking about. This is not how you hold a hammer. Let's continue.
Hello, young people.
Young people.
Ice raft at Erratics near Mattawa, Washington.
Slap.
Erratics. Boulders.
Notice how this boulder of melt here. Boulders. Give me a break. The demeanor completely changed here immediately when Mr. Nick here put his greasy paws on said melt's forehead here. So not a good start, Nick. Let's continue. Tell us about Ice Age erratics. Tell the audience about Ice Age erratics, please.
Do not match the local bedrock. The local bedrock here in central Washington is brown. Layers of basalt.
Notice the building in the background here. I will back up a bit here, but notice the building right here in the background, rising up out of the relatively flat landscape. Notice right here we have carbon-14 leaching out of this masonry material, leaving remnants of it behind. Just some pink left here, the few remaining bits of the carbon-14, which is clearly being feasted on by all this lichen and moss around this masonry material. So this is great evidence here, but let's move on. I'm going to back up quickly and show you and take a look at that building behind the melt here.
The local bedrock here in central Washington is brown. Layers of basalt, lava rock, and yet we've got these big light-colored boulders.
Again, we have a ziggurat right here. This is a ziggurat right here. Obviously, we have the same walls here on both sides. Take a look here. I'll drop the labels. And we got perfect equidistant mortar lines here still in this material. And likely this is a chunk that fell and rolled down this hill. Now, what he's going to tell us is that that said material here, masonry material with the brick lines in the right angle still, easily, obviously, having rolled down the hill here, the melt flowing off of the building. But he's going to tell us something different, that these are erratics and that these came 60 miles away, traveling via iceberg. You tell him, Nick.
Metamorphic rocks that dot the landscape. How did they get here?
Notice the walls in the background here.
Metamorphic rocks that dot the landscape. How did they get here?
Look at the walls.
Erratics are usually associated with glaciers.
Again, a big hunk of melt here. They're telling us these traveled via iceberg. This enormous building sitting right here on the road, which was the original road in the past. That's the same road they were driving on when this building was still a building. Okay, and it's still in the same spot, still in the same road, same address, baby. And give me a fucking break. This was carried along 60 miles on an iceberg, with the brick line still present. On an iceberg. Give me a break. You know, give me a break. I see bricks in here still, too. If you notice, we still have patterns. You can see them faintly, but they still are there. Very wavy, very wavy. But you can see what's happening here. This is melt. This is great evidence. Get on with it, Nick.
Bringing these boulders to an area. But here at Mattawa, we are 60 miles south of where the ice sheet used to be in north central Washington, north of Wenatchee.
So I was going to say that in Wenatchee here, we have glacial ice snowballs, basically. Basically snowballs that they're saying rolled down these ice sheets and these mountains. And apparently all this is downhill because I don't know how this stuff travels, continues to travel when the landscape is not all downhill. Take, for example, the Mississippi River, carved out by glacial floods and glacial activities and such, from damn near Canada, Minnesota, all the way dividing the continent in half, the continental landmass in half. We have stones and rocks tumbling their way, carving an equidistant canal channel, dividing the continent in half. And that would indicate to me that from Minnesota all the way down to Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico, where the Mississippi crashes into the Gulf of Mexico, that it is all downhill. Because there is no way that rocks are going to continue to tumble and carve out equidistant rivers unless they're traveling downhill, baby. But wait, I've been on the Mississippi River. I was just there 2 days ago. And it was pretty flat out there to me. I can't put a picture in my mind of seeing any rocks tumbling past me, carving that canal out. I can't put a picture of it in my mind. I don't care how much floodwater it was. I can't see it happening. And then leaving an equidistant, perfect equidistant canal. Move on, Nick.
So this is not from glacial activity. This is from Ice Age floods, ripping off pieces of that ice sheet and carrying these boulders down here. Ice rafted erratics. Let's go a little further south in the Pasco Basin.
Ice rafted erratics. Have you ever seen a brick column, or what they call basalt columns, the size of a dump truck, the size of a building? You tell that last one was the size. It was still the same size it was when it was a building. Have you ever seen anything that size floating along on any iceberg? Show me one iceberg today with even a block that weighs 300 pounds traveling along. I ain't never seen it, baby. I ain't never seen it. I've never seen enormous chunks of masonry floating down, and that would indicate that they had to have rolled down from said mountains, tumbled down like snowballs, like you're making a snowman, catching all sorts of masonry material on its way down and crashing into the sea, floating 60 miles and settling wherever they choose to deposit themselves. Not making a lot of sense here. Ice Age erratics. Floating rocks, catching iceberg taxis everywhere, and give me a break.
And look for more of these guys, okay?
Yeah. Look at the right angles.
How about this beauty? We're on.
The building is slumped over. It was a building that was upright, obviously. It was like this. Oops, excuse me. Like this. What's it doing now? What's the building doing now? It's slumped over. It's sagging down in the melt. It melted down. It's half cock-assed in the fucking melt. Excuse my French.
The lower slopes of Rattlesnake Mountain near Benton City, Washington. This is argillite, a metamorphic rock that used to be shale.
And he tells us not how that happened. How argillite used to be shale. He does not tell us how that happened, when the transition happened. Okay? If these are tranny rocks, how did it happen? If these are so-called tranny rocks, argillite, or shale to argillite, you tell me how that happened.
1.5 billion years old. This thing's like 12 feet long. It's angular. The Ice Age floods
Because it
brought
fell
this
down.
boulder here. This is Rocky Mountain geology brought to South Central Washington.
Now, I'd like to use your imagination here. Use the imagination. Look at the building here. First of all, it is a building with a pyramidal roof, or just a pyramidal building, first of all. And what would you expect with such a colossal megastructure? Would you expect there not to be some sort of a major water reservoir supporting the irrigation and the plumbing of this building? And what would you expect it to look like? Something like this, right? Nearby? Yes. Look at the buildings in the background, how they're showcased out in front of each other, displayed out, so that you know as you're coming along this water reservoir, which snakes around back here, you know which building you're going to. Either the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. You know which building you're going to. That's why they're just displayed out like this. These buildings are displayed out like this.
Rafts of ice, icebergs, floating in the water, carrying boulders like these.
Bullshit.
This guy either fell off of its ice raft, or the iceberg got into some quiet water, stranded, melted, and left the rock. Regardless,
melted and left the rock. That's true, Nick. That is true, Nick. The bricks melted down, leaving rock. I like how you put the emphasis on melted.
This boulder's been sitting here for at least 13,000 years.
Bullshit.
Ice rafted erratics in South Central Washington. It's all out here to see.
Hand on the melt. Hand on the melt. Get your greasy paws off of me.
Right here for you and me. 2-minute geology.
Get your greasy paws off the melt. I love you all. Take care. These are Ice Age erratics. Erratic, eh? Erratic is right. What a joke artist.